Greetings, everyone. My name is Stephen Neely. I'm your co-host of the virtual Dalcroze meetup. We are so excited to have everybody together for our first meetup of the summer 2021. I'm here with my dear friends and colleagues, Veronica Valesky and Emma Shubin. And the three of us have been making this come around every couple weeks for a year now, for more than a year now. So nice to have everyone together. The agenda for the day is in the chat, and we will paste it again for any of the people who just appeared. But if you want to see our short, easy agenda for the day, we're going to say hi. We've got a couple announcements, and then we're going to hear three colleagues share a little bit about their practice, and then we'll get to talk about it. And then an hour will be up really fast. Our tradition has been to take just 3 minutes to say hi to each other. So I'm going to quickly throw everybody into a breakout room, into different couple breakout rooms here. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout rooms. Looks good. And when you get to your room, you do not have much time. So you got to go kind of quick, and you're going to say your name and where you're from and who do you teach, or who would you like to teach, or who might you teach someday? So any of the versions of any of those. So when you get to the room, introduce yourself to the other people there, say hi for a minute, and you can stay there until I pull you back, which will be about 3 minutes from now. Ready, set, go. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had enough time to say hi, to get through. We always think it's fun to jump to those little getting to know you rooms just to realize what a great mix of people from so many places far and wide we attract. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to introduce Veronica. And Veronica, do you have a couple announcements for us?
Welcome to season 4 of the VDM. We took a month and a half break, and we're so excited to have you all back. So this season we have 3 meetups, and we're trying something new where we're going to have a specific theme for every meetup. So we did a whole year of hodgepodge. You have something to present? Sure, let's just throw it together. And there were lots of interesting conversations that happened through the juxtapositions that we had, but now we're saying, okay, let's see what happens if we're a little more focused and say, can you present on this specific topic? So we're trying that out this season for all 3 meetups, and we'd love your feedback if it works well or if you prefer the random hodgepodge. And then we have 3 masterclasses. So our first one is this Saturday night if you live in the Americas. It's in the middle of your night if you live in Europe or Africa, and it's on Sunday morning if you live in Australia or Asia. And I will let Stephen tell us more about Manuel and his teaching and the masterclass.
Yep. Manuel has been just a wonderful colleague, such an exciting man. He's from Mexico and has many connections in Central and South America, but the last couple of years has been teaching in Vietnam. And so he has a position where he works with elementary age. Actually, I'm not sure what his oldest ages are, but definitely I think like grade 5, grade 6 is definitely part of his normal crowd. And he's a very exciting man with a lot of ideas. He also has a continuing education project where he offers videos regularly, that he posts all sorts of ideas. So he's just a very exciting person. Did some of his study in Geneva, is now in Vietnam, and I believe just renewed his contract. So he's going to be there another year. And so we were really excited to bring him in. He also is somebody who's been doing a lot of remote teaching for some years. This wasn't new to him like it was to most of us. And so he has all sorts of good techniques for making things work in the virtual environment. So if you haven't worked with Manuel Zarzueta, please sign up. You should definitely try to catch him teaching on Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on where you live. And we were just thrilled to bring him in. Our next masterclass after this Saturday is with Karin Greenhead, diplome from England. And our last masterclass of this season will be with Jeremy Didis, our very own Jeremy Didis, who's now living in Texas, and his masterclass is going to be on an odd day of the week for us. I believe it's a Wednesday evening in the Americas and a Thursday morning in Asia, or something like that. So double check that before you assume. But all of these people, also Jeremy's also a diplôme, and so there's so much great experience and things to see. So focus on Saturday. We'll see everybody there. And then we'll talk about all the rest of those as we get going. Veronica, I don't know, are we at a spot where we maybe want to give anybody a cue as to what the next two meetups subjects are a little bit about, or is that a little?
Yeah, totally. The next meetup is going to be Dalcroze in the service of non-music disciplines. So how does Dalcroze support goals other than musicianship and learning performance skills? And then the last one we're calling Dalcroze and Puppies, and it will feature Steven's cute puppy on the lawn taking Eurythmics class. And what we really want to talk about is what has this year meant of all the changes that we've had to make. What have we learned? And also going forward, what might our students need if we're returning in person? What has it been like to work with puppies and siblings and partners in our space at the same time? And what are the needs coming up that we could anticipate for our students?
So if anyone would like to volunteer a couple minutes to contribute to either of those, we have a couple little windows that we're still sort of looking around. So if either of those, if you have ideas of ways that you believe that these Dalcroze practices contribute in extra musical ways or to extra musical disciplines, then we'd be really interested in including that. And then if you have ideas about transitioning out of and into as we look ahead to the fall, send a note to me or Veronica, and we'll set you up.
I just want to say that it can be something you've been thinking about and never shared with anyone, and you just have this 2-minute thought that you want to throw out into the universe and see how people respond to it. It does not have to be anything fancy, and all of you, I'm sure, have lovely things to share. So don't feel shy about nominating yourself. It's a low pressure presentation.
Yeah, as they all should be here at the BDM. Before we jump to our first presenter, we'll just let Emma say hi real quick. If you're in a good spot, Emma.
I am. Hello, everybody. I apologize. I am in a moving vehicle, but not to worry, I'm not driving. I just wanted to welcome everybody and say thank you for making this possible. This portion, obviously, our meetups are free for anyone, and our master classes do have a small fee. But if you or anyone you know needs help with a scholarship, one of the joys of being a partner with the BDM, the nonprofit I manage, Integral Steps, offers scholarships, and we would love to support you or your colleagues. And I also should say that my dogs are feeling a little left out. They will also be part of our Puppies of Dalcroze conversation, as they helped me with many of the class.
I'm sorry, Emma.
It's okay. It's okay.
Apologies to them.
They will forgive you. No, just kidding. But we're just really excited about this upcoming season. And thank you all for continuing to come and be with us and make this such a vibrant, amazing community. All right. Without further ado.
I get to introduce.
We're going to do Judy, and then Yeva, and then Anthony in that order.
And so I feel the need to introduce my dear friend Judy. Judy Cagley has served on the faculty at Carnegie Mellon's Marta Sanchez Dalcroze Training Center for many years. She was also a full-time teacher in the public schools in an inner city environment for 30 years. I don't know how many years you taught kindergarten and other, but Judy taught, so she just has, and she's sort of in Pittsburgh, she's sort of our resident elementary pedagogy expert specialist with more resources than we know what to do with. So Judy, I hand it over to you for just a short little 5 minutes. You want to unmute? Or here, I bet I can unmute you. Let me find you. Oh, no, I have to ask you to unmute. So you have to unmute yourself. Oh, and I think there you are. You can do it. There you are.
I did it. And I'm setting my timer. Sorry. Technology is a wonderful thing sometimes. Okay, you tell me. I'm going to just do a snapshot of something that I've done with the song bingo. I found that folk song material is very useful for children. You don't have to teach it to them, you just start singing it. And just as the people through history have learned folk music, the children learn when to join in. They're very well structured songs usually, and there are lots of chances for participation. I use this one at the very beginning with 3 and 4-year-olds, with every class, actually, every age who's coming in for the first time, because we know that social interaction is one of the very big parts of Dalcroze work. Also, classroom management is a very big part, and everyone is attracted to the sound of his or her own name. So using the song bingo, first we sang the song, we did the clapping, and then we put in children's names or people's names. So starting out here, there was a farmer had a dog and bingo was his name. B-I-N-G-O, 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 and bingo was his name. Now I see somebody sitting over there whose name is Billy. Let's see if Billy can fit his name into the song. There was a farmer had a dog and bingo. Well, excuse me, try again. There is a person in our class, Billy is his name. B-I-L-L-Y, 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 Billy is his name. And you can go through all the different names that are in the class. Of course, as the teacher, I have the class list. So there are lots of different names. The challenge for the teacher is to fit every name into a 4-beat pattern. If you have older kids, they can be conducting in 4, you can be patching in 4, but some way to get the 4 there. And we're singing, fitting in everybody's name. So let's say we have somebody named Joe. There is a person in our class, Joe is his name, J-O-E, 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 Joe is his name. Now, you can take, as the teacher, the challenge is that they all have to fit into that 4-beat pattern, 4-beat framework. And my children that I taught on Saturdays only saw each other. First of all, they saw each other for 45 minutes in a studio with earphones on, and then they came to the eurythmic studio and they saw each other for 45 minutes. So this was a way for them to get to learn each other's names. I liked using the spelling of the names rather than the rhythm of the name pronunciation, just because it gave us so much of it lead into rhythmic patterns. As this progressed, we could have all the children whose names fit a certain one. So if your name was, you would go and sit over here with Billy and Jimmy and Sally and all the other ones. Eventually we would divide. And now this, I'm giving you a snapshot, but this is something, as you know, that could develop and unfold over months. One of the things that this could lead to, and even with the smallest ones, is here's a spot for everyone whose name sounds like this. So you find your fellows who have the same pattern you do. And then if I'm improvising on the piano and I start to play, you would go and find the person that had your same pattern. Those children would go and sit down in their little spot. The rest of the children could go and walk around them, clapping their pattern. You know how to put this all together. Eventually, this actually led with the older children into a beginning of rhythmic dictation, because I would actually turn my back to them, but you'll imagine my back is turned. And we would draw in the air the stems of the notes. So B-I-L-L-Y, B-I-L-L-Y. And I would turn my back so that they were reading from left to right with me and they could go along. Eventually that could lead to the board, and they could do that with a piece of chalk. We would go back and do the math and figure out how it fits into 4. One of the things we did was stepping or conducting, finding out which of the letters was actually on the beat. And we went through a whole process where they wrote the letters of their name, but only the ones that were on the beat were in capital and then lowercase for the other ones. And again, we did the math. It was a long process, but you could pull it up at any time. And it was a good way to pull the class together if things were sort of starting to fray around the edges, because again, no one can resist the sound of his or her own name. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeva.
Hello, my name is Eva and I'm from Latvia. It's from Europe. And I teach at a local music school, and soon I hope I will get my Dalcroze certificate from Dalcroze UK. And I have created my written worksheets for children, and I would like to share my work with you tonight. I created these worksheets to make my lessons more unique, to help to kids visualize the lesson theme and help parents understand what their children are learning at the moment, and also to give kids a relaxing and creative break from the lesson's physical activities. There are different themes. You can see all these, like umbrella, rhythmic patterns, and themes with letters to animals and cars. It's my favorite. And snowflakes and mouse and cheese. And always each theme are connected with songs and activities, what we are doing in our physical activities and our lessons. These worksheets you can use in different ways. You can use as individual work, for example, let the children to individually make them create their own rhythm, or have them practice their listening abilities, or you can play with together like a game using on whiteboard. Or you can make your own short video animation, put more these activities together and send like video to, if it's in nowadays situation, pandemic, if you can't work only online, you can work. The possibilities are unlimited, and you can create your own versions or variations, and also you can add your own rhythmic patterns. And because each theme has very different difficulties, but I can't predict all these rhythmic patterns what you want to use in your own lessons. It's very, very short, my presentation, and I will send, or I can put also in chat this address, or can you buy these worksheets. It's almost 100 different worksheets you can use in your everyday activities. Thank you. I hope you understood.
Yes, thank you so very much. And we would love that link. Please put it in the chat. And if you can email it to me also, I'll email it out to everybody. Yeah. Thank you. Anthony.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to throw a little screen share up here. If I can make it work. There we go. So I'm a teacher. I teach at kindergarten through 5th grade general music in a public school, as well as I teach at the Saturday Preparatory School at Carnegie Mellon. So I see a lot of different applications for the Dalcroze method, but I'm going to talk a little bit today about what makes Dalcroze kind of special for the K-5 setting, and then I'm going to show you an activity that I think fits kind of nicely, and then we can kind of talk about why I think it fits so nicely. So why I found Dalcroze to be so helpful in the public school, it's a holistic approach, incorporates multiple senses and modes of learning simultaneously. These are things that we talk about in a public school setting all the time, you know, multiple modes of learning and trying to touch on all of these different things. It's easily adaptable for diverse learners. In a public school setting, you're going to get all different types. I found the Dalcroze method is one of the easiest things to adapt for just about anybody. It's an experiential approach, which sometimes for children, you know, it's hard for them. It's hard for teachers to find experiential approaches for subjects. Dalcroze makes it super easy. They're engaging activities, and I think it's easy to manage a classroom in the Dalcroze method because the activities are so engaging. I learned a lot about that from Judy Cagley, actually. There's a lot of extra musical benefits as well to the Dalcroze method. And also, we can put on really great performances at the end of a process of Dalcroze. So I found it to be really helpful in my practice. So I'm just going to go through a real quick activity that I've sort of been developing that's kind of interesting. And if you are up for it, can join me so that I don't feel like I'm here by myself. That would be great. But I'm going to find a little bit of space in my little room here. Now, this is a lesson I would do in person, but you know, I'm going to adapt it a little bit for the virtual environment, but you can imagine how it would work in person. And so what I have here is what I call my brain slave device. And it's just a little hacky sack. Okay, but if you have one, if you can find something like this, something you can hold in your hand that's handy, then you can follow along with me here. But this is my brain slave device. And what you're going to do is you're going to follow me. You're going to mirror my movements because I'm holding the beanbag. Now, in my classroom, in person, there would only be one beanbag. And everybody would be watching me and trying to mirror my movements. And really what I'm trying to do here is just get them to sort of stretch their bodies and engage a little bit. Maybe we'll try some different shapes. Let's try some wavy lines. How about that? Oh, see, it looks so cool on the screen with everybody. How about we'll go really fast? Oh, I like that. That was interesting. Watch how I did that. My hand starts up high and then it drops. What happens as it gets to the bottom? This is an interesting feeling. Let's explore this a little bit. So we have this feeling where we hold it up and then I drop it and it comes around. You feel that? Let's do a couple of these. Feels interesting. So now let's just go back to just some other kind of movements here. Just following, and seeing if you can predict when I'm going to do that big drop. See if you can predict when I'm going to do the big drop and drop it with me. Did you get it? We'll try it again. See if you can predict. Follow. Can you predict? And drop. And maybe I'll do a couple of these. Like that. Boom. Very nice. Now what I would do in an in-person setting is I'd call on somebody. I'm going to call on Veronica. And so Veronica, I want you to lead. You're going to give us some movements. We're going to follow your movements. And then you decide when you want to do the drop. And we're going to follow your drop. So whenever you're ready, Veronica, we're following you. Right, so good. So and then I would maybe. Now, what's fun is that in the in-person setting, I actually toss Veronica the beanbag. And then I say, whenever you're done, Veronica, you go ahead, you toss it to somebody else. And so then somebody else gets a chance, and we might give somebody else a shot to do it. And we can go around the room, and everybody gets a chance to just kind of get this sensation. And this is what, and then I'll talk about this one a little bit, that drop. That's an interesting feeling. What happens when we get to the bottom of that drop? What happens to your arm? Can you feel it? It's real interesting, right? Can you feel it tug at your arm? There's a moment when it hits the bottom. I call it the heavy bottom. When you hit that bottom, boom, you can feel it. And the natural instance is to drive up. And then you can also feel how it accelerates going back into it. I really like that feeling, the heavy bottom. Boom. Let's just try some heavy bottoms all together. Let's just try some heavy bottoms all together. Hold it up for me. Hold it up for me. Hold it up. Hold it up. Hold it up. Hold it up. Here we go. Ready. right? So we can just do a little bit of this feeling, and the kids start to, you'll see they all find it right away. They find where it is in the music right away. And then I might mess around with it a little bit, slow it down, speed it up. And I say, okay, that might be one lesson. Then the next lesson I might do something where I'll contrast that even more. And I'll teach them a different move. And this move is called the rainbow. And the rainbow goes like this. You hold the beanbag out here to your side. And I'm going to reach across and I'm going to grab the beanbag here. And I'm going to pull it across and draw a rainbow. Right? And when I get done, I'm going to reach to the other side. And I'm going to pull across and draw some rainbows. You see that? We're going to pull across again, and we're pulling it. This is the rainbow. It has to start open. You start across your body, and you pull it open, right? It has to start that way. I'm a stickler for that. You can't go the opposite direction. And let's try some rainbows all together with the music this time. So give me your rainbow position, and here we go. Ready? Did you feel how long the rainbow was? Nice, again. All right, so we do a bunch of those. Now I'll say, okay, let's do a little thing. We're going to do 2 heavy bottoms, and then we're going to do a rainbow that lasts for 2 heavy bottoms. We'll do it together. I'm rushing through this right now, but we're going to do 2 heavy bottoms and then a rainbow for 2. Let's try it. Ready, and we'll go 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2. Other side, 1 and 2. Again, 1 and 2. You see how I did that? Now, I would do that at the piano, but let's skip ahead. So I'll say, okay, let's do it 4 on a side. 4 on a side. Ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Good. So, Christine, you did your rainbows backwards. The rainbows need to go across and then open. I'm just teasing. But that is something I would point out to a kid. I would say, the rainbow has to go across. Then I would say, okay, follow me. We'll do the same thing. Let's go back to 4s. Here we go. Now the rainbow. Right, and then the other side. And then I would say, all right, toss the beanbag to somebody else. And I would tell them, let's do 6s. And we'll do it. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Right, you see how we can do that? We go 8. I've done as much as 16. I've had the kids go up to 16 and then stretch it across. Then if I really want to tie it all together, I'll just play something. Maybe I'll play like... right, and then, oh yes, you're already doing it, right? You feel the rainbows and then you feel the boom, you know. So, and then the kids just naturally gravitate to this. They start to put things together with the form. They start to put things together. I'll put them in groups, and I'll say, figure out the arrangement. How do you want to do it? Heavy bottoms and rainbows, or you could even just make up your own little brain slave movement if you want, and just let them sort of play with that movement vocabulary and start to come up. And with public school kids, this is just great. This is just great stuff. It really allows them to do a lot of different musical and extra musical sort of playtime with some really cool concepts. And I also like that it's grounded in real specific movement vocabulary, which is like sort of my thing. I like the movement vocabulary because I found with public school kids, you can't just say, move how you feel, like it's a bad idea. You have to sort of give them a palette to play with or it's really difficult. Anyway, that's my time.
Man, every time Everybody just blowing my mind out here. Thank you so much to all three. There's tons in there. We'll have no trouble talking for 25 minutes right here. I'm 100% sure. So many good things. We all, if just in case there's anybody who's a little bit newer to the practices, or somebody who's going to watch this, later, who maybe is a newcomer. One of the very Dalcrozian things that we saw now a couple examples of is that there was an initial nugget, an initial sort of interaction, and then there were variations on that interaction or extensions of that interaction. And so there, with what Anthony just showed us, he gave us an initial, he's calling it a movement vocabulary, which I'm 100% with him. I like that wording too. But he gave, there's this downward arm, and then there's this upper arm, the heavy bottom and the rainbow. And then that isn't at all the end. That's just the setup. And then the end is how many ends can we make out of this. So let's do it as he just showed there at the end. Let's do one where we do just, let's do it this count. Now let's do it that count. Let's do it 16, crazy count. Now I'll play something and you figure out what is the count. Now, what would be the next step? Now you invent one and I'll play for whatever you tell me. So all the little groups, you decide, I'll watch you and I have to dictate what you do. You all do it together and I go, oh, I think what it is. And then I accompany you. So those kinds of variations on a theme or extensions of the initial idea, which we saw in the other presentations as well, it's central. Like, it's really central, and it keeps everybody so creative and in the moment. It like forces us to be present. I think one of the reasons that classroom management was mentioned a couple times, and how it was worded each time, like, and it's not that big of a deal, like we're not too freaked out about it, is because you can't exist in these rooms except that you're present. Both the faculty, the teacher has to be present, and the students have to be present, or like nothing happens. And so keeping everybody sort of on that edge solves so many things. I love it. What would anybody else want to comment? I could keep on talking for 25 minutes here, but I'll let somebody else ask a question or make a statement. What do you want to say? There's the puppy. Do you hear him? That's the big one, not the little one. It's too soon. 2 more meetups from now. Who else?
I just wanted to jump in real quick and piggyback on what Judy's a little bit, because Judy's one of my favorite teachers, like, of all time. So just full disclosure, but she, this idea of the song, you just throw it out there and the kids follow along, and then you just keep adding wrinkles to it. And I love that. And eventually I never thought about expanding it into, like, really let them just hear the rhythm and figure out who's similar and different. That's like a really brilliant idea. Like, that had never occurred to me, because I do something similar with bingo that you did. I think I learned it from you, but that level of it, and then you just let me think about how I could extend that even further. So thank you so much.
Who else? Deborah.
Just following on what Anthony said and from Judy, I could see it being an ORF person into the ORF direction. I could see it taking it into instruments with name rhythms, and each, a different name rhythm could have a different instrument, and then also making it into an orchestral piece when you're playing the different names at the same time, and having a common rhythm and making it into a happening around.
Yeah, that's super nice. And that idea of just the last thing you said there of multiple rhythms at the same time, that's all set up in Judy's exercise there, as another sort of advanced way. So whether it would be add instruments or whether the body remains the first instrument, in that, but can we have the Billies and the Joes, show your rhythm at the same time, walking, clapping at a xylophone or on hand drums or on whatever the thing of the day is. Those would all be really nice extensions. And now what about if we pair these two? What if we pair those two? What if we all do our name at the same time? Lovely. What else? These can be questions for or just comments on. Veronica?
I've been thinking a lot about the supports that teachers need to teach well. I think especially this year, because we've been asked to do so much other stuff, and so it just has felt pretty taxing. And one of the supports I've been thinking a lot about has been curriculum and worksheets, and how if you really want beautiful things to give to your students, it takes a lot of time, and the thing I was struck with in Yeva's worksheets just was how beautiful the illustrations were. Like I immediately was like, oh my gosh, please give me that, you know? And I think kids feel that, like, you know, you give them a piece of music and then you tell them about their favorite animal, and there's a picture of their favorite animal, and all of a sudden they're in love with it. But until there's that emotional hook, it's hard to care. And so I think I'm just curious to hear more about the artwork, Yeva, and how that came about. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on the artistic presentation of something to be used practically like a worksheet.
Thank you. I would like to add, I'm author of idea, but the painter is another person. You understood, yeah. Also Latvian, yeah. It's cooperation.
Yeah, they struck me immediately as well, as something that I just thought was beautiful and and just so lovely to see. We also are all, I'm sure you all know the same idea that if you hand the student something that you value and you present it to them as something that you value and that is precious, they're much more likely to take it seriously, to take care with it, and to bring the respect along with it, as opposed to the crappiest Xeroxes that we all can bump into. When I was teaching high school choir, I went far out of my way to make sure that the music that I handed the students was top tier. The actual printing, the binding, the presentation, the way I handed it to them, the way I expected them to treat it, and the way I expected it to come back to me. Like we went way out of our way to really sort of build that respect in. And I know I benefited in many ways. And I think it's the same thing. I think we often can encounter that in the Dalcroze classroom, in the way we enter a room, the way we deal with shoes or not shoes, depending on your classroom. If you're in a classroom that actually can do the shoes off. That was one of the first things that struck me about visiting Geneva the first time. When I went to the Institute Jacques Dalcroze the first time, it hadn't occurred to me like how far you could push that attention. And to my sort of American sort of sloppy sensibilities here and there, I was just really taken with like how very strict they were with no shoes in this room, and we place them like this over here, and we touch these balls or hoops or whatever things, with such care. Like they really take it quite seriously. And I don't think it's because anybody's uptight. I think it's because they are just sort of bringing a respect for the work into the room. So I think Eva's illustrations, sort of are also in that same kind of model for me. What else? You have thoughts or questions for any of our friends? Jennifer.
Yes, and still on the topic of the worksheets, I also thought they were beautiful, and I was curious to hear more examples of how you might use one of them, like an elephant compared to a train, or how you've used the worksheet in the past to support other activities that you're doing.
I will try to understand. I'm sorry about my English. I hope you will understand. Yeah, every time when I'm working on some pattern, for example, ta ta ti ti ta. For example, it's a short example. We are stepping, as you know, different ways. We are with rhythmic, stones and so on, and instruments and playing different games. But then, for example, one of my favorite worksheets is with the cars. It's a start point and ending point, finish, and there's different patterns, and you have to listen. And I'm playing, and they have to draw their way from start to finish. And every time I can change this way. It could be the same rhythmic worksheet, very elementary, or it depends on class, on age, and I can change the way how I then I can ask to somebody from students play the way it's different, or there are also worksheets without rhythm patterns, just stops, and they can draw and make their own ways, and they can also play, and they can step, and it's so different various. And one of my also, I try to make this video short animation. I make like animation one sheet and play, and they at home had to listen and find, and then at the next moment I showed which stop I used, and I put it all together, and yeah, it also was like a short animation. It was very interesting. And you can also little bit, you can get these as PDF, and you can add your own rhythmic variations, or just remove if you find something it's too much, or yeah, it's one of ways you can use.
Thank you.
Please.
Anyone else looking for more details from Eva or from Anthony or Judy, or questions, or do you want to change the subject?
Judy had something to say.
Yeah, Judy, can you unmute?
Mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
And can you see me? What happened? Anyway, I forgot about the dreaded W in when you're spelling somebody's name. And I always try to put that within the 4 beat things, but I tried to do Veronica's name. And Veronica, you are the one person in the world who would get 2 measures. And
Thank
so
you.
the W,
I'm honored.
the W to me is a 16th triplet attached to an 8th note. So W. So let me see if I wrote it out and it was WERONICKA. WER. So anyway, the W, I think it's really important to make the children aware that yes, this is an exception. And there always seems to be an exception. We say in America, the exception that proves the rule, but the word prove does not mean that it confirms the rule. It means it tests the rule the same way that you proof yeast before you bake. So that was what I needed to say. The other thing is that when the children get more sophisticated, they want to make their own. So if I have imposed upon them B-I-L-L-Y, maybe one day someone comes in and says B-I-L-L-Y, B-I-L-L-Y. So they have all of those. Then the older children start to play with and manipulate the different things. And we still have to make it fit the framework. So it leads to all kinds of interesting things. Okay, that's it.
So good. Judy, you should keep flicking around there, see if we can get your video back. But
Yeah,
we heard you. We heard you loud and
wait a
clear.
minute. I see it. There. All right.
Good job.
Yes. Okay.
What else are we thinking about?
I saw a word I didn't know in Anthony's presentation. Social constructivism, I think. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's like, if you talk about like behaviorism versus constructivism, right? You're talking about behaviorist teaching is all about conditioned response and just like a lot of rote learning and like, I say this, you do this. And it's like, it's sort of come out of fashion, although I think there's a lot of usefulness to behaviorism. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but as opposed to constructivism, which is a little more open-ended, a little bit more like, here, mess around with this and see what you learn, and so constructivist teaching, Dalcroze can be very constructive, but then there's like now like they've taken it another level, social constructivist, which is now let's work together to learn from each other about this thing that we've been messing with, right? So this is like social constructivism, and boy, I mean, this is like the I think where in the general ed community, like social constructivism is all the rage, like, but like, Dalcroze has been on this, for 100 years, that, we can learn from each other through their experience and sharing and, their experimentation and their experience all works together to raise for all our learning. So, the social constructivism, if you're in a general ed setting, like I teach in a school and, I'm like one of 2 people in the school that's a music teacher, so, most of my colleagues have don't know how to teach music. But if you learn that, like, hey, this is their language, this idea of social constructivism is more of a general ed concept. This is something that we can really make a case in the politics of the school for what we're doing.
I think another way to describe it is student-led versus teacher-led. That's another general terms that's used a lot.
I like your wording better. Thank you.
We still have a couple minutes. What are you thinking about?
I got something I could share if you.
Yeah, please, Anthony.
I never got to it in my presentation. I was going to take it back and see if I can get this up here. Oh, let me see what happened to my thing. Here we go. I'm going to pull this up for you guys. Let's see, this is from a John Habron and Liesl van der Merwe article that I talked about it on my podcast recently, if anybody listens to that. But there's this model for evaluating sort of transcendent experiences in a class. I use this a lot in my public school setting to try to figure out how I can quantify and try to get like a really great fulfilling Dalcroze experience, as opposed to just like, all the evaluation tools in public school music are all like just pretty cut and dry about the students will be able to achieve this level of mastery. And it's all like, very boring to me. So like, this is much more interesting. So there's like these 4, so he calls them life worlds, existentials. It's really interesting. Corporeality, relationality, spatiality, and temporality. And when all of those are happening at once, then you get this holistic experience. Okay. And so if you think about corporeality is like, has to do with the body, right? What you're feeling. Relationality has to do with what you're doing with the other people in the class. Temporality has to do with time, being immersed in time, flow state kind of stuff. And then spatiality has to be like where you exist in space, in the plane, how you're manipulating that sort of, spatial plane. And so like for my presentation I just did, I went through and kind of thought about that there's obviously Dalcroze tradition, it's obviously corporeality is easy. We do everything through feeling in the body. And the relationality is also very easy, because you're getting this, all of this lead and follow, learning from each other, working in small groups to problem solve. Obviously, like as we're swinging our arms in space, we're really becoming, aware of that. And then the temporality is that, losing yourself in that moment of time. Anyway, I think it's a really interesting thing. I mean, I can share that little graph with you guys here. I'll see if I can put it in the chat. But I love that that John Habron and Liesl van der Merwe article, and it really, it's really, really useful for me in trying to not just talk about, we talk about this stuff, and especially in a public school setting, and it's like, all right, weirdo, it's like, what kind of mystical voodoo are you trying to do? But like, if we can have a tool that sort of explains it in a little bit more of a, objective way, I think it's useful.
Super. If any of you haven't met John Habron, he, sorry for the puppies. He is, he runs, oversees the DalcrozeStudies.org, which is the International Conference of Dalcroze Studies, which is right now planning its 5th conference. Will come up this October. So we'll definitely put in a plug for that. Everybody should try to register. And it's going to be a Zoom-based conference this time around, where the last couple times they've been in all different corners of the globe. But the one that's coming up in October will be Zoom-based. And so everybody, no one needs to travel to get there. And it'll, there'll be many presentations over a couple days. You can kind of clip in and scoot out. And it's all sort of scholarly, academic thinking, writing, theorizing, in ways that overlap with Dalcroze attentions. And so
real quick, Stephen, when I talked to John on the podcast, he was very clear to tell me that it's not just academic sort of stuff, that they're really interested in the practice and having presentations of practitioners, and also having people have real Dalcroze experiences in the conference and not just presenting papers. So I don't know.
Thank you. Duly corrected, and I appreciate it. And the podcast that Anthony's referring to is the new Dalcrozian. And so if you haven't listened to those episodes, they're all such high quality, so well put together, and so very thoughtful and smart. I'm really proud of the work that Anthony and Lauren Hodgson have been doing. So by all means, check that out. Check out the ICDS and consider registering for the upcoming conference. In no way defending my misspeaking, because what Anthony said is exactly right. There's a combination of practice and theory, but it's a special conference compared to the old timers like myself, where the only conferences we had were all practical, all go take a class with a cool teacher. And it wasn't until the ICDS came along that there was a venue for scholarly writing, for theoretical philosophizing, and for presentation of research. That really didn't have a home until the ICDS came along. And so they're doing that and keeping some of the practical elements very alive as well. Jennifer?
Yeah, I haven't been to the conference before, and I'm curious as to whether any of the presentations will be in other languages. I'm really interested in bringing the Dalcroze approach, especially into the children's program where I'm teaching here in Mexico. So I'm just trying to find a way to introduce it in a way to my colleagues that would be very comprehensible to them.
I don't know for sure. I'm assuming that the full ICDS is in English, and there will be transcripts of the different presentations in English. And I don't know if Zoom automatically translates to Spanish in the same way it automatically will translate to English. So there may be something there. The presenters are from around the globe, and so there will definitely be some people who are from Spanish-speaking countries, I assume, and so there may be some connections there that will be useful. And then otherwise, we'll have to keep working. I'm sure you're aware of Manuel and of Eldenelli and Eldenelli Trevino in Mexico, and and we have some colleagues in Spain and in all through South America. So we should keep looking to figure out how to embolden those communities.
There actually Elda was organizing a Dalcroze mini conference. She had like 3 or 4 online sessions recently.
Yeah, I just saw a post about that.
Jenny,
as well.
if you want to follow Elda on Facebook, I'll put in her name here. I think being in touch with her would be a great thing. Maybe just send her a message and be like, hey, let me know about other stuff. Because I know that all that was on Spanish.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, we're about at the end. Has anybody got one more sort of parting either comment or question before we head out? Yep, Catherine.
Hello. I just wanted to pick up on what Anthony was saying about teacher-led and student-led. I just taught last Saturday for the first time in 15 months live. So I actually got to meet some students for the first time, and I found that working online has been great, but how I was really blown away by being in the room with people and how much less teachery I actually needed to be, and how much they watched each other and learned from each other. And we had those moments of silence, of reflection, and which you could just tangibly feel, which you can't on Zoom. So it was, it's just kind of really brought it home to me how that part of the Dalcroze work is really important, and it's just very lovely to have it back again. So Zoom is brilliant, but being with real humans is so much better.
I think that's a great optimistic closeout to our meeting today. Thank you, Catherine. I saw pictures. I'm fortunate to be friends with Catherine on Facebook, and I saw pictures of her teaching studio, and the excitement in her face was undeniable. She was beside herself with glee about being back in the room. We were speaking just before the meetup today how my university, Carnegie Mellon, just announced last night that starting today, they gave us like all of 4 hours notice. Starting today, the mask mandate has been lifted on our campus. They did a survey of everybody, student, faculty, staff, and we're about like 99% of everybody on our campus is vaccinated at this point. And so they said, wow, well, there's no point then, this is ridiculous. And so from going forward and assuming things stay stable, everybody's on the honor system. So if you're not vaccinated, you can be mask free. And if you are vaccinated, you're mask free. And if you are not vaccinated, then they ask you to still remain masked, but they're definitely lowering a lot of the barriers and a lot of the walls. So I hope that's the case in a healthy way in all of your communities, little by little. I hope we can all get to that. I'm very optimistic for the fall. So everyone, it's on time. We try to start on time and end on time. So I thank you so much. Thank you to Judy and Eva and Anthony for your presentations, and for all of you for showing up. Please register for Manuel's masterclass. We hope to have a nice crowd and would love to see you all there. Tell your friends, and if anybody needs a scholarship, let us know, and we'll help you out. And we'll see you Saturday, and then in a couple weeks for the next meetup. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you all again.